Yeah.
Catch this. Catch this good stuff.
Yeah. Switching it up. What's up, man? Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Is that the 92 US Olympic basketball jersey you got on?
Yeah, one of the dream team. This is Penny Hardaway.
Oh man, love it. I've got my Greg Lloyd jersey making a repeat appearance on the podcast. I feel like you've yet to exhaust an outfit on the show. I've gone probably at least two times through each of mine.
Y- Yeah, I feel like really it's just a collection of I went through a phase where I was only wearing jerseys to school all the time. And now that collection is paying dividends
Love
in,
it.
in the sports podcast for our audience, for our audience
You're
of
born for this.
But what's up, man? A lot of sports this week, this weekend. I feel like I'm eating my words with this idea of there's no stopping for stopping.
Yeah,
Because
there's
there's
so much
been
to
some
catch
new
up on.
winners. Yeah, there's been some new winners in Formula One.
You love to see it, right? Like just the exactly what you said was bad for the sport is maybe taking a turn for the better, where the Verstappen dominance was a little boring, which I totally agree. Now we saw Lando get his first win and then Charles Leclerc win in Monaco finally, where
Yeah.
he's from, his hometown. Just love to see it, man. So um I don't think that the next coming races on the calendar are going to be as competitive. They're more like Red Bull dominated tracks. So we'll see. Definitely the gap has been shrunk, which is super exciting for the sport.
It is. It's good to see. It's good to see. I was like, oh, that's nice that someone else had gotten it because just parity is important, like really creating. And we're seeing it in the other sports, and it's really exciting to see. And I know that some of the big brands, so like these racers are brands, right, in and of
Of
themselves.
course. Yeah.
But I find it that for Formula One fans, like this is exciting times. There's not that many racers to root for, but seeing as you can really start seeing some more I don't know, just success. Like Lando Norris. I saw a lot of I was at Disney this weekend. I saw some Norris jerseys or shirts or whatever you call them, kits.
That's
Um
really cool. It's
yeah.
a growing sport and its popularity. It's kind of incredible to, but I don't remember ever seeing Formula One gear out in public
Mm.
before. And now I see it every so often. Red Bull, Ferrari. It's cool to see. Now, of course, I have my McLaren stuff on, which it's hard to miss, right? Because it's like bright orange. But
Yeah, yeah. No, you see it a lot more, which is really exciting. But I also wonder, the races here in the US are important. Like that was an important expansion of the brand of having
right.
more like long-term races here with Vegas and Miami. But what's also interesting is I think there's a level of status with Formula One that isn't always there with NASCAR. And I get it, like I get it. Like I want to be more into NASCAR, and I think the racing is really exciting. There's a fight just a couple weeks ago between two
Mhm.
racers, like but the fan base isn't the same. And so I think there's a level of like yeah, it's a status symbol to be a Formula One fan. Whereas I don't think that status exists in NASCAR. And I wonder if that limits it, right? Because I think we're living in a country, especially like in urban centers, right? We want to reach a status, right? With certain tastes and certain interests. I think that's why golf is popular with people. I think if golf was for poor people, it probably wouldn't be as popular as it is. But there's a status to golf, that makes people want to pay, play and pay and have that experience. And so I find that with Formula One, like it's almost the race can be secondary. So like I'm
Mhm.
thinking, right, like going to Monaco, right? Like such a historic place. The race can feel secondary to the experience, right? Of maybe the dining, maybe the the different platforms that have different things, like the different wealthy people coming in. Like it's really and taking pictures of the beautiful water and the ships and the yachts, and the racers are coming into the area in yachts, so it's
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's crazy. It's real opulence. And it is attractive. It is attractive, not to like talk like smack about it, because I would love to be on that yacht.
The thing is, like, we mere mortals couldn't do any of those things that you see on television at Monaco, like the people staying at the hotel in Monte Carlo, $100,000 rooms. Those are typically with the balcony that overlooks the marina. And then, like, there's just no way for a fan of motorsport, like in a proletarian sense, that they could do those sort of things at Monaco. And then if you do want to go to a more affordable race, there's the airfare involved. You got to travel to do that. At least for Americans, it feels like NASCAR will be somewhere in driving distance from you at some point during the calendar, so you can go and see that Formula One. If you really want to see it in person, you're, just like you said, investing. For some, it may be just all that like cultural capital that you display when you take your little Instagram picture from the paddock, or your seats in the grandstand. Um, I wanted to bring up another race that happened over this past weekend,
Indy
maybe more
500.
famous, the Monaco Grand Prix, Indy 500, which is like 300,000 people. Just, it seems like it's hugely available to the masses in a way that Formula One is not. Um, so, which is the more American appeal, which has more American appeal. You gotta have to say the Indy 500 still, right? Like it still dominates the like fan base, the number of fans attending. I don't know how it's doing in ratings or whatever, but it's an interesting contrast to see those two events, which over the past couple of years have happened on the same day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and real competition with each other there. I find that interesting to counteract. One of the interesting stories, since you mentioned the Indy 500, was Kyle Larson,
Yeah.
NASCAR racer, raced in the Indy 500 and then went to go race in the NASCAR race that was that same day. And so it's just like, that's crazy.
Charlotte, right? So it's not like these two places were right next to each other. He
Yeah.
had to like, hop on a Concorde, and the I've looked on the news. I've seen that there's discussions about him getting a waiver for ultimately, right? He missed some parts of the Coca-Cola 600 race because the Indy 500 was so badly delayed because of weather.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you had any thoughts about his standing in the NASCAR series, like if
Well, I mean,
we
that's the
penalize.
thing. Kyle Larson's one of the best racers in NASCAR. Like
Mhm.
he's legit one of the greats. So it's one of those things where I think if he was a nobody, it'd be like that sucks, like to
Yeah,
but if anyone could keep up or keep track, it's him. And if he wants to challenge himself like that, because some races, when you see Kyle Larson, like he can be head and shoulders above a lot of the other racers most of the time. And so I think this is also more like kind of like oh man, it was a Barry Sanders. No, not Barry Sanders. Who was the dual threat? Was it Deion Sanders? No. The
Deion
dual
Sanders did baseball and football, but I think you're thinking of Bo Jackson.
Bo Jackson.
Yeah,
Like when you're so talented athletically and you want to challenge yourself. And so I honestly saw it as a cool little like like a tribute to like these race car drivers are athletes, right? They're competitive
Mhm.
and they want the challenge. And it's great in an environment where you could feel like he makes enough money in NASCAR. He doesn't need to do the Indy 500, that he's like, no, I want to do it. It's a historic, to your point, right? It's a historic race. I want to be a part of it. I'm a race car driver. I'm not just NASCAR, right? I am, I can race multiple different levels. And to still see that today, that synergy, I honestly would love to see more of it. But ideally, I would love it to not conflict, right? To be a true, like, maybe NASCAR takes that week off and then they have some of the race.
Mhm.
But then that's unfair to a lot of the people in the Indy series, right? Um,
Yeah.
who have earned their spots to suddenly have all these other NASCAR drivers come in as well. So I get it, but as a fan, like I loved it. It would have been cool if he won.
Yeah. I wish things were differently. We could like where act like ended up differently, and he could have raced in the NASCAR race that night. Because I just love the idea of these drivers trying to complete side quests, you know.
Yes, that's cool.
Um,
Yeah,
and even in the upcoming weeks, there's the Le Mans 24-hour race in France, and there's consistently, I don't know about this year, we'll check back on this. There's been a team of former motorsport legends like Jimmy Johnson and Jenson Button. One's a NASCAR driver, the other is a former Formula One world champion, and they race together on the same uh, Le Mans team. So the crossover between motorsports is cool to see. Fernando Alonso did that. He was a two-time Formula One world champion, ditched it for a few years, raced IndyCar. Um, so yeah, these guys are just competitors, like you
yeah,
said, and they love driving different cars. The cars are so different, right, between these different formulas and the different competitions. So they want to show their driving prowess in
yeah,
all these different ways, which is cool.
yeah. And it's by no coincidence that some of those racers who are challenging themselves also tend to be the best in their main series, right? In their main car because they're challenging themselves. I do think it elevates their level of ability significantly above others. So
Mm.
that's really good. It's been exciting in the race front, but we got playoffs. We still got playoffs. It's settled. The Celtics the Celtics are going to the
Got your
finals.
brooms.
Sweep. A sweep. What do you think?
Yeah, we almost saw that in the Western Conference as well.
Mhm.
It's really it's down to it's all pretty much a foregone conclusion to me. The Celtics are going to face the Mavs in the finals, but Celtics, they look good, man. They look good after they survived. I don't know if you said this on the last podcast, but surviving that first game, scary, almost got beat by the Pacers, needed a last second shot. It was like Ray Allen-esque.
Yeah.
Uh, that I think that's it. It's over. Like so deflating.
Yeah. There's only so many of those as the Indiana Pacers that you can take, right? Because as the Pacers, you're the underdog. You don't have the same talent level as the Celtics. And to try to compete against it, like you need those to go your way,
Yeah.
right? To then have a chance at winning the series, let alone be so close and not have it go your way. Is a tough game. So, but the Celtics, I mean, as far as their playoff trajectory, they are hungry. I think the pressure is on, right? For them, whether they're facing the Mavs, probably going to be the Mavs, for them to win the finals, right? Like I feel like the pressure is all on the Celtics. They've been this core of Jaylen Brown,
Yeah.
Tatum for a while now. And they've put different pieces, variables all around, you know, for year over year. And it feels like this has to be their year, to ascend to that throne for the first time. Um, because I've been hearing about the Celtics, been hearing about Tatum for a long time. I've seen the competition. I've seen him lose against the Heat and all this stuff, but I feel like they're for real. Like I think that helped forge them. And I'd be shocked if they don't win the finals.
Yeah. Definitely heavy favorites. But on that the flip side of that same coin is that it for the Mavs without that pressure of being called the big three of today, or like to be the super team like the Celtics are, takes off that pressure a lot. Kind of like how we saw the Mavs take on the Heat in, I don't know what year that was, whenever
Yeah, with
LeBron and
Dirk
Chris
Nowitzki.
Bosh,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and Dirk Nowitzki took him out. I don't know another single other
Dirkovic,
person on that
Dirkovic.
team, but
Calm down.
that's good to see. It's gonna be fun.
Um, it is, that's the thing though. The pressure's on the Celtics. Now, if I was betting, I'd want to see how the Mavs close out the Timberwolves. They need to close them out. They played tonight at 8:30. Close them out tonight, right?
Yeah,
Because
if they let this game, the series, I mean, go and drag on, they're just gonna get more tired and be a little bit more beat up in a way that the Celtics won't be. Celtics will have days off before the finals begin. Yeah.
yeah, which is good or bad. And with the Celtics, I'll say mostly bad, just because the I just don't trust. I don't trust their mental toughness. Like Kyrie has won a chip with Cleveland. He's been in
Mhm.
those moments. And Luca, I mean, he's just a different level of player. Like just like a street baller, like just some random dude coming off the street that can just shoot it and dribble it. Um, and I'm honestly so happy for Kyrie and Luca to be tight, like for that team to be a good team, because I feel like Kyrie got a lot of heat being in Brooklyn, being in New
Yeah.
York, getting into political things by just not wanting to accept a vaccine and all this stuff. Uh, that it took, I feel like it took him a while in Dallas to like cleanse himself of those experiences of that brand that he had. I feel of being like a prima donna, you know.
Hmm.
Uh, I don't think he was. I just think the dude thinks what he thinks and it's like he's stubborn. It's not a prima donna, but stubbornness. And stubbornness can also make for greatness, right? When you're so stubborn, you believe you're gonna win no matter what. You're just so damn stubborn about it.
Yeah.
And so I think what I'll be watching in that series, hopefully we get that final series, um, because I don't think, yeah, I think if the Wolves were somehow able to squeak out, and I don't even know if it's happened in a Western Conference Final series that you come back after a 3-0 deficit.
I don't
But
think it's happened in any NBA playoff series. Let me check on that.
yeah, yeah.
But
Um, because I think if the Timberwolves make it to the finals, it'll be easy pickings for the Celtics. But I do think the Celtics and the Mavs, that's an interesting matchup. Um, of pretty, I mean, pretty well experienced teams, that have had success. And so I'd love to see that matchup. And I didn't even know who I'd root for because it would be exciting to watch, right? Like just Kyrie and Luca going ham, but then you got the Celtics, right? You got Holiday as this distributor. You got Tatum, who just he takes it to the bank, man. Like I love it when he just takes, he's not the flashy shooter. He could still shoot the three, but
mhm.
he's on that attack mode, like, and then he just pops it in there. It's beautiful to watch. The athleticism of Tatum is crazy, along with his skill set. He does remind me of a young LeBron
Mhm.
in this, in like younger, like his game. Because I remember younger LeBron was always like taking it to the paint, right? Just boom.
Yeah.
He could shoot the three, but it was all about you know, the just sort of manhandling you inside the paint. Um,
Hmm.
so I see that a lot in Tatum. So it's exciting. It's exciting. It's exciting for the Celtics. And hopefully the Mavs. We'll find out tonight, folks. We'll find out tonight.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um,
And go back on what I said, that there has not been a team to come back from 3-0 down to win a best of seven series.
Look at that. Thank you. He's our producer, researcher, head of research.
Doing
Uh,
it all.
doing
And
it
now that
all.
you have the USA basketball shirt on today, it made me wonder, are we going to see Jason Tatum and LeBron on the Olympic basketball team? And the team was announced. This was back in April. And yeah, we got some Jason Tatum, LeBron James, Drew Holiday, Tyrese Halliburton, just to name a few names. Just yeah, Anthony Edwards. Feel free to look for yourself, folks. It's going to be a a nice team to watch play in Paris this summer.
Yeah, and a good mix, man. Those were a lot of young superstars, right? That you named right there, and that's it's exciting. It's exciting. I'm glad for the NBA. Just I just hope that it ends in a good like because some of these series have kind of gone quick. I think that the way the Celtics have gotten to the finals has been pretty quick fashion, right? Like no,
Yeah.
not even the game sixes, like so. It'd be nice that if the finals kind of went the distance, I think people would watch it a little bit more. So really, really excited to see. But then flipping it to the Chell, unless you have anything else on the NBA front.
No, I was going to say the Chell, especially that Rangers and Florida series, has been the almost complete opposite of the Celtics and Pacers series.
And both. You got the Western Conference tied 2-2.
Oh, they
The
tied it up last night.
Yeah,
Wow.
they tied it up last night. So you're looking at neck and neck sort of games. And what's crazy is the amount of overtime games that have been going on. So I
Mm.
mean, these teams are really, if you're watching it, you could see they are giving it their all every damn time. Like like I've never like, and I've seen it now for a few years now. Been a regular watcher of the Chell just because of the Florida Panthers having Barkov and getting so many good players and good play. Reinhardt, by the way, is my superstar of choice. He comes in the clutch for the Panthers time and time again. But it's just the will. You see it. Because man, that is not easy, right? That's why you have like different like different lines
Yeah.
because the players can only be on their on the skates for only so long, right? Like before you get tired. You can't be skating at that speed and level for 30 minutes, 20 minutes. But everyone is at this point because of the overtime
Mhm.
games. So I
Yeah.
mean, my thing to watch out for is I don't know if real injury creep is gonna pop off at any moment in time, like to a superstar, you know? Like
Yeah.
will it be because it's McDavid, right, on the Oilers side,
Oilers. Yeah.
and Robertson on the Stars, Barkov, and then I don't really know who the main Jesus, they all look the same. They all they're all the enemy. They're all the enemy to me. You hear me, Nick? They're all
To
the
their eyes.
yeah.
Yeah. I hope that injury doesn't happen, but I don't foresee like the series loosening up, as it were. Like they're playing it very tight because these goaltenders are all so good, and it's
Mhm.
um, you know, so evenly matched in the goaltending department that
Mhm.
we might continue to see. It's great. It's great for the viewer. I'm sure that it's you got like no fingernails left, my friend, from watching these continual Panthers overtime games. But I've been loving it.
It's exciting, because it's a one timer, like in overtime rules. Like
Hmm.
I was at Disney and I saw when the Rangers won their overtime game. But then I got to see when the Panthers won their overtime game. It's just like the excitement of when you find like because it's more than just the regular elation of scoring a goal. It's like you just won the game with that goal. And
Yeah.
that elation that comes out, um, it's beautiful. I gotta be honest with you, it's one of my favorite things to watch. And I wish there was more of that sort of dagger rules in overtime play,
Oh,
right?
like sudden victory. Yeah.
Yeah, sudden victory because the pure elation is crazy. Um,
Hmm.
so it's honestly fun to watch. I feel for the players though, because if you, I mean, you're talking about so much extra time on the ice, and it's
Yeah.
almost every game at this point. So, but to your point, spot on. It's the goalies, man. The goalies are the ones who are making it happen.
Hmm. Exactly. Exactly. I there's like a big debate if golden goal or sudden victory is like the most fair way to do it, but it is definitely the most exciting way that it's done. I think overtime rules in any sport. And what I don't like so much is when and the NHL playoffs don't do this. If they did do this, it would be terrible. Like to decide a game on penalty shootouts, penalty shots, or penalty kicks, like they do uh, in like the Champions League in soccer, for example. And that's just all like there's definitely a mental side to penalty shootouts, penalty kicks that um, is definitely really interesting to get into. But then the actual like what you're seeing happen is mostly like mistakes and not like moments of real greatness displayed, like you can see in a
Mhm.
sudden victory situation. You could also see mistakes though in the sudden sudden victory or the golden goal situation, like an own goal. Like to see those kind of things would be disappointing, but
It's
at
much
least
rarer.
it's
It's much
rarer. You got to put yourself in that position as the team who ultimately wins that game to get that kind of puck luck and get a own goal or momentary lapse by the goaltender. So
love
love
that.
to see it.
Yeah, I love that. That's an interesting take, especially because it's true. Like you remember the people who messed up on those penalties, right? Like
Mhm.
they go wide right or they just miss the thing altogether. Like, why can't you just hit, at least hit the target, Um, but I think we take it for granted. So whereas I think the sudden death or golden goal, you don't highlight as much all the things that went wrong. Whereas I feel like the pressure, it's more of a mental thing than a sort of athletic skill thing. It's like who can
Mhm.
be strong enough to just do what they need to do in that 1v1 situation. Whereas golden goal, it takes the full team effort to squeak out that victory. And
Yeah.
to almost expand your point, to me, it's more of a truer testament to being a team game,
Hmm.
right? Than penalty shootouts. Because penalty shootouts, then it's a different game. Then we're no longer playing a team game. It's a 1v1 situation, right? It's a different game altogether. And so it's not fair to judge the victor of a team sport and I know people love the penalty shootout, but you just sort of expanded my viewpoint here.
Hmm.
It's a different game. What you're watching
Yeah.
then is a different game than the team game that you're dedicating the real time to. So golden goal, that's the way to go.
I think so. I think so for sure. Yeah. It's bringing back haunting memories of uh, Manchester City games lost in penalty shootouts, mostly to Real Madrid. And in these games, you really, I will give the goal, not the golden goal, rather the penalty shootout credence in this way. Like, whenever you reach a penalty shootout situation, it's really about the flip of a coin. Like, whoever goes first wins majority of the time because they have the psychological advantage of putting pressure on the team that goes second. So when in your whatever regulation, overtime, or in whenever it goes before the penalty shootout, you get some real intensity there because you don't want it to be down to the fate of a coin toss or the fate of just these highly stressful psychological situations that you get put in for a penalty shootout. So
Mhm.
maybe, yeah, kind of walking back a little bit. Maybe you need both because you need the penalty shootout to maybe add the impetus into the overtime. Not that they need any more motivation to win the game, but I just wanted to point out that when you see that there's going to be a penalty shootout, you can get a little bit like, just I need to score now because I don't want to leave it up to chance.
Mm, nice. What? So,
What have you enjoyed more, the NBA or the Chell playoffs so far?
Well, I think it's safe to say it's the Chell just because it's a Florida team, local. Literally, the arena is like 20 minutes away from my house. So there's a lot more at stake for me in the NHL playoffs than so I haven't been as regularly watching the NBA playoffs as well. So if I had to choose one, it would definitely be the Chell. But I think that's also just because of regionalism.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I've as well enjoyed the Chell. I didn't really mean that for that to rhyme like it did, but the
As well, the Chell.
it's hard to argue against a playoff series, which is like to to my recollection, this Rangers and Panthers series and the number of overtime games. It's just like one of the best series I've ever seen. We get more series like that in the NHL than we get in the NBA, but more multiple overtimes, more
Yeah.
excitement. So
Think we have to wait for the finals for that for the NBA. So we'll
yeah,
we'll, we'll keep tabs on that. But it's very exciting to watch. And hopefully, I think ultimately the NBA once the finals are set, I'll definitely be eyes glued with the Mavs and Celtics as the finals matchup.
yeah. And then you get them on alternating nights,
Mm.
NHL finals,
My
NBA
wife's gonna
finals,
love
instead of
that.
having to like flip back and forth like you do
Right
during
now.
these conference finals. It's hard to do.
Yeah, my wife's gonna love that. Sports every.
Multiple TVs.
Um, so got to talk about it. We've been pretty consistent almost every episode talking about the WNBA.
Hmm.
I want to know your initial thoughts before I get my initial thoughts.
All right, putting it on the platter for me. Well, to be frank with you, the I might be not. I don't think I'm in a boat of my own here, saying that like I kind of like pulled back a little bit in my watching of WNBA games. Um, haven't kept that initial fire going from like the start of really, Caitlin Clarke's career in the WNBA. Watched it, maybe felt a little bit of a twinge of disappointment that wasn't as maybe magical as we were seeing. And we talked in a previous pod about that's okay. I mean, we really do need to see star power for the longevity and the league kind of expanding
Yeah.
like we want to see happen. So yeah, maybe I'm a case in point there. Um, the coverage of it has been great, I have to say. Like it's exciting to hear. Like when I check ESPN the next day, they are focusing in. Caitlin Clarke hits a game-winning shot, give Indiana their first win of the season. That happened a little while ago now. So uh, yeah, again, just it's a it's kind of hard to compete at this early stage of their season with all the other playoff competitions and other big things going on right now. But
Yeah.
still lots to be excited for.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just think it sucks. She's on a poopy team, you know.
Yeah.
She's doing great, but people I think people enjoyed the past college basketball season of hers because of her success, right? If she was just scoring all these points, but then Iowa was just losing,
Hmm.
I don't think she'd be as recognized as she is right now. Um, and so it's a very interesting element of the reality of draft picks, right? A reality of the worst team picks the best player, and in a team sport, that doesn't always then put you in a situation where then you are a winning team. And it's a shorter season, the WNBA season. So it's like it's not like they have a long time to like turn things around. So
Yeah.
I think it sucks. It sucks because it's like, what do you do with this excitement, like this brand that has come to your area? Like I just think about LeBron James. I still remember, there was articles of him in high school. Like that was the hype of LeBron James coming to the NBA. And it's like you have to, and the NBA did have to figure out like how we market this
Yeah.
guy, who's going to be very recognizable, and how is he going to have success? And just out of curiosity, how did LeBron's Cavs do his first season? Just to compare apples to apples as far as okay, here we go. His rookie season in the Cavaliers, they were under 500. Their record
Yeah,
for the season was 33 and 46. So,
it's interesting. And I think if I remember Michael Jordan, same thing with the start of a career, like you were
oh yeah,
first
he had a few years.
entering, yeah, a few years of being under 500. So you're entering in a situation which is obviously not ideal. I mean, that's how you get the first pick. Um, and I think we're also in, I wonder what your thoughts are on this. We're also in a tanking era where franchises know a lot about the value of high draft capital picks, like number one, number two overall picks. And so they don't compete as hard at the end of the season. So the the teams who get the first round pick, it's sometimes hard to say like, are they withholding some of their talent because they wanted to be in a rebuild and
Mhm.
tank at the end of the previous season to
Yeah.
get this high draft pick? Or are they just like a little bit depleted of any talent that will make them into a winning team? So the tanking subject, are you a fan of the gamesmanship of tanking, or do you think that it's going to be potentially like a problem going forward with teams not being as competitive as they should be at the end and kind of devaluing overall the teams that are winning? I don't know what your thoughts are on tanking.
Yeah, I think ultimately outside of us having relegation in every
Mhm.
sport, um, it works sometimes, right? Like, so I think about the teams that have been able to get back. The Celtics, after their big three of Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen and Paul Pierce, they had a rebuilding time where they were subpar and they built capital and got picks, traded off players to be able to build a team that now so many years forward, was a 4 or 5 year process, now is in the finals. It takes time, right? And so and it works out for some teams. It doesn't work out for others. I think about the Philadelphia 76ers because they owned that, right? Trust the process. They owned the tanking process
Mhm.
and it's backfired. I mean, they got Joel Embiid, but they haven't been able to get to the promised land. Um, so in years, I think they could have.
Yeah.
It's just interesting. Like I get why people don't like it, but ultimately, at least then that team that's on the bottom barrel who might end up being a bottom barrel whether they're competing or not, now they get something for it. But, a lot of leagues, right? Thinking in the NBA with the draft lottery, there's also no guarantee that you'll get the first pick by being the worst teams.
True.
You're taking a gamble. You are taking a gamble. Now you might have the most you might more better chances, better odds, but you are taking a gamble in tanking to then maybe not get the draft capital that you were anticipating. So it
Yeah.
is it is a gamble either way. And I think outside of having relegation, there will always be that race to the bottom at the bottom.
Hmm.
At that point, what are you playing for?
Yeah, exactly. This is like something we'll live with, live with seeing. And you make a really great point about the lottery leagues that
Hmm.
have sort of a fail-safe. I wonder if they can maybe make more even the odds for teams at different ranks at the bottom of the leagues to decentivize tanking a little bit more. In the NFL, it's just awful to see like tanking teams because it's true one-to-one correlation. Like worst team,
Yeah,
best draft pick.
yeah.
So
And,
uh
and and then with the NFL, it's such an interesting one because it's like, I mean, maybe outside of getting a quarterback, but even then, I don't know how many number one overall pick quarterbacks were the best in the NFL overall. Um,
Hmm.
it's really hard. Like, yeah, like it's a hard league to get one player and feel like now everything's changed because we got that one player. I think of the excitement, and I mean he's all world with the Detroit Lions and Aiden Hutchinson. You know,
Hmm.
a great was he right end or left end? Like in on the
Yeah.
defensive line.
Edge rusher. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, if they didn't have the other pieces, right? If they didn't have Jared Goff, if they didn't have Amon Saint Rod, like you need the complete team. It takes a
Yeah.
lot to ultimately be successful in the NFL. And so, like tanking for one pick, like I personally feel in the NFL, especially, it's nice to not have the number one draft pick.
Hmm.
It's not because then you see what everyone and you can make I think a more logical decision as opposed to influenced decisions of you
Yeah.
need this player. Like, there's always that one player that's hyped and hyped and hyped. And then you feel like your fan base will be upset if you don't take that player. But maybe
Hmm.
that's not the player you need. Right. And so for the NFL especially, like I would prefer not to have the number one pick.
That's so interesting. Yeah. The and it's always like a quarterback that has to be at the top of the conversation of who's going to be that number one overall pick. And we saw like the Bears like get rid of Justin Field, get rid of so and so, and like now without ever seeing this guy play a snap of NFL football,
Yeah.
build their team around him. This is kind of crazy to see. I don't know. In other sports, like at the NBA, there are five guys in your starting lineup, five guys on the court at any time. Hockey, same thing. Five or six guys on the ice at any time. And in the NFL, there's like 22 guys
Thank you guys.
on the field at any point in time, not for the same team, but the talent needs to be more dispersed.
Dispersed. Yeah. That's why a lot of these big quarterback contracts, I get it. Get your money, but how much is it going to hinder the team? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't
That
know.
it's always a big time conversation at this
Yeah.
time of year as well. Like how much cap space a team would free up by getting rid of a certain player. If he's like, you have to hold on to him this year because if you let him go, it's like a huge penalty on your team's salary
Yeah.
situation. So then we end up having these guys. Jimmy Garoppolo is like the number one case for this from in my memory of like huge contracts, really complicated, can't get out of them because he's a quarterback. And then your team is like playing, what was his name, Aiden O'Connell for the rest of the year. You just see him like crap because you don't want to ruin the potential to get anything from the player.
Yeah.
Like if you
I would
play him out there and he gets hurt, you lose all of that potential value.
I would put Kirk Cousins higher than Garoppolo. Kirk Cousins has managed a career of getting paid like he was the number.
Yeah, but he's also played. Like
That's true. That's true.
with the
He
spare
has a
last year where he tore his Achilles, like
yeah,
he's played. He's made
yeah.
his playoffs.
That man gets dough. Captain Kirk gets dough.
He does. He does. Yeah, I was just saying the teams and it didn't seem like Minnesota really wanted to move on from Kirk. Maybe they'd have this whole time, but for teams that have had a piece of Jimmy Garoppolo, it's always seemed like we want anybody but Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah.
It's a shame because he's
The
so
time
handsome.
his stock was high. His stock was
Hmm.
high at one point when we didn't know exactly what we were getting. Like, his early days in San Francisco's like, oh man, this guy's the real deal.
He made
But
it to a Super Bowl, right? So
it dropped though. It's dropped.
yeah.
Well, what's interesting because I know we're talking about Kirk Cousins, we're talking about the NFL. Minnesota potentially have wanted to keep Kirk, but then Atlanta came in and offered a really great contract that's hard to turn down with guaranteed money. But then first round pick for the Atlanta Falcons is a quarterback. And a lot of people did that. A lot of people shook their heads. But I have to call back to my theory on the importance of easing in quarterbacks, and not having them play right away. like for the first season at all.
Hmm.
I'm like, wait a minute. So if my theory holds true, then I actually have to applaud the Atlanta Falcons for their pick. Because if Penix sits 2 years, I know you paid Kirk Cousins for like what, 4 years? It's like 4 years of play, 4 or 3 years,
Hmm.
something like that is how long the contract is. But if you can have Kirk Cousins be your solid, great quarterback for 2 to 3 years, have Penix sit back, develop. The thing is that Penix is a little older. So if you wait 2 to 3 years, then you're getting a starting quarterback who's never started at like 27, 28 years old. But
Right, right. And I think
could be there.
like I, I love the principle. I love the practice. In this case, it's still a total miss because you got 2 years at a number one, not a number one overall draft pick, but a first round draft pick of zero productivity where you could have gotten a star wide receiver.
Mhm.
You're seeing like wide receivers in the first round, like just like going to the moon in their very early seasons. Um, but like you can make that same strategy work. Why not wait until like round 5 or 6 and pick up like a Sam Hartman,
Mm.
like we saw the Commanders do, um, and get with very little. I know I'm not saying Michael Penix and Sam Hartman are on the same exact level, but um, if you want to play that card, you have that available to you in the later rounds, and you can still have a playmaker on your team. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it. You're paying first round prices for someone who's going to give you zero stuff at least for 2 years. You
yeah.
know, a year is the worst case scenario because that means that your Kirk Cousins gamble was also off and you wasted money.
Hmm.
You
Yeah, it's like you're betting on failing.
Yeah. So interesting. But this is a Sip Score Saver podcast, Nicholas. We
Is it
must
time to
talk.
sip? Is it
It's
time
time,
to savor?
time to sip. It's time to savor. Talking food. Talking food. How was your Memorial Day weekend? Did
Oh
you
yeah.
cue it up?
And did we did we did a little grill out, and weather was beautiful, a little hot. So um definitely took it easy on the outdoor time, the grilling, made some like chicken skewers, um, hung around a couple of patios, just with some beers. It was very low key. We stayed local, which and I know that you did some traveling over the Memorial weekend, which hopefully you'll tell us about. But I am like, now that I've had the stay home experience on Memorial weekend, I don't see myself doing it differently ever. It's nice to not fight the traffic and
Hmm.
just to be here.
No, I get it. I get it. That's fair. That's fair. Um, yeah, I was most worried about traffic because we did travel up to Disney for Memorial Day weekend. We stayed at the French Quarter, which is undoubtedly one of our favorites. So there's Port Orleans French Quarter and there's Port Orleans Riverside. Riverside is one of the bigger hotels. Um, it actually has a restaurant, it has multiple pools, but it's also has a lot more people. Whereas French Quarter has just one pool, like quick service dining hall, but then they have
Mhm.
like a jazz lounge, and then it's where you could get fresh beignets, um, which are delicious, the Mickey shaped beignets. But 'cause everything's got to be Mickey shaped. But
Absolutely.
it was wonderful. It's one of our favorite resorts, but it was so hot. The parks were scorching.
Mhm.
It felt easily in the hundreds. Like we had the wet towels around our neck, like these special wet towels. We took plenty of water breaks. Um,
Yeah.
you lived and died by the shade, right? So because when we go to Disney, we don't need a map or anything. Like I know where everything is. So
Mhm.
my family was just following me from shady spot to shady spot.
Yeah.
Just to minimize the amount of time you're in the sun. And of course you feel like you have to pay a premium to skip lines because you don't want to be waiting in line when it's so hot outside. You want to be efficient. But
Hmm.
that being said, we were able to spend some time in the pool, which was nice as well. very needed. And then ultimately, we experimented for the first time ever with their dining plan. So,
Oh, wow.
thinking about the saver side of our podcast, so Disney has brought back their dining plan. They have two options. And so this is like included with the resort package, right? You could add it on. Uh, and there's a one package that is like you get one restaurant credit and one quick service credit and one snack per day per person. That one's a little bit more expensive. And then, but we decided because the math, right? We were trying to math it, right? And try to beat it and try to make it like an actual cost savings. We did the quick service one, which is easier ultimately doing the math to get your money's worth and some, which any opportunity you have to like save money at Disney and like cut costs, you should definitely
Mm,
do it. Because you're gonna eat there. There's no doubt about that. And so that is two quick service restaurants. But there's a lot of great quick service restaurants at Disney right now that have, pretty diverse, uh, you know, types of food that can ultimately make your palate like happy. And so we were able
yeah.
to take advantage. And it does include an adult beverage. So we got to order an alcoholic beverage each time for each meal. Which ultimately, after like the first 2 days, it made me realize I didn't want to drink anymore because I felt like even if it was only two drinks, I felt like I was drinking more just because of that than
Yeah.
I normally would. So but it was well worth it. The quick service, I think, is a good deal if you're going to Disney and you're okay with skipping a restaurants. The restaurants are nice. Some of the restaurants are epic and great to go to. But if you're just going to visit the parks, it's also nice, efficiency time wise to just
Hmm.
quick service restaurants, and they're pretty solidly good. Like I think one of the things I enjoyed was the French Bistro burger
Mm.
that was
Okay.
really delicious. That had the brie cheese, some jam, bacon. That was pretty good. Also had cheeseburger bao buns that were pretty good. Um, and yeah, just exploring different things, exploring different palettes. It was a good time. It was a good time.
That's fantastic. Just out of curiosity, when you do a plan of the day at Disney, do you plan to go to the park morning and evening to avoid like the heat of the day? Maybe like do pool in the middle, or like what's your plan of attack? You go all day park and then maybe come back at the night and enjoy the pool.
Really depending on the park and how many rides we were able to get in. Now there is like I guess one of the benefits of staying at a Disney resort is that you can go to the park starting at 7 a.m. And
Hmm.
so you can get in lines early, right, to get some of your favorite stuff. So that's about
Yeah.
we never do that. Okay. We never wake up that I hear the people every time. Because the thing is, I still have to wake up at 6:50 because I have to get the Genie Plus, and then I have to be able to book the first Genie Plus Lightning Lane. Starts at 7 a.m. And so it is, as vacations go, to maximize it, it takes a lot of energy and planning and logistics. And
Yeah.
so that's the one downside of it, right? Is it's a very coordinating vacation. But once you have it, once you've mastered it and find your best way to handle Disney, then it becomes super pleasant. So for us, we
Mm.
have breakfast in our room, right? We bring our own iced coffee. Um, Shout out to what is it? It's you buy it at Trader Joe's, a cold brew. Um, it's a famous place from Portland.
Oh, like the Stumptown.
Stumptown, thank you. Stumptown
Oh, nice.
Coffee. You get the Stumptown Coffee cold brews. We have some cereal, some fresh fruit. We relax, and we end up probably pretty consistently getting to the park by like 10 a.m., which on this hot weekend was still pretty tough. But
Mm.
we came with towels, we came in with water, we had snacks. Um, we had our elements. One day we were able to come back a little earlier, like at 1 o'clock, because that 2 to 3 to 4 is the hottest point in a day
Yeah.
in Orlando and such in Florida in general. So one day we did get to go back and just and me and my daughter got to hang out with the pool while mama rested. So
Mm.
that was nice and refreshing. We were in the pool for quite some time because it was perfect to just be in the
Love
water.
it.
But then some of the other days we trooped it. We really spent a good chunk of the day at the park. And and ultimately I feel like with all like sweating so much, like everything I ate, I'm sure just burned away. Like I
Yeah.
0 calories or 0 pounds during this
Walking around in that heat, man. Yeah.
walking around in that heat
The best exercise.
was crazy. And I'm, you know, and the thing is, at first I started to enjoy. I want to say like the second day, because I'm Floridian, and I know for some people, like you know, and I was having a meeting with colleagues, and they're more cold weather people, right? And so they're saying they hate sweating when they're not like exercising or something. Well, I'm used
Mhm.
to sweating when you're just like walking outside. That's why like I don't Floridians don't go on hikes, you know, like any you tell me you go on hike, like I don't do that. Like there's like if it's not a hike, it's a walk. Like you're exercising is what you're doing. You know, you're not
Mhm.
hiking and taking because it's so hot most of the time.
Yeah.
Um, so at first I started to enjoy just the faces of the people because the misery on their faces was amusing to me because it was, you know, it was hot for me as a, you know, raised Floridian, and I couldn't imagine all these people coming from different places, like how they were doing it. So at
Yeah.
first I enjoyed the misery, but by that last day, the day we were coming back, we still went to Animal Kingdom. I was like, I'm done. Like my heat exertion is over. I don't want to go outside for at least a week. You know, like I am staying in AC as long as possible.
Maxed out.
Yeah, because it was rough. It was rough. But you got to find pieces and moments of break and pause because overall it was memorable, it was enjoyable. Shout out to my daughter. She went on all the a lot of the crazy rides. We went on Avatar for the first time, the Flight of Passage, incredible. I know it's already a couple years old, but that ride, state of the art. We went on Guardians of the Galaxy, and that coaster was intense. I haven't been in a roller coaster since Arya was born, you know,
Mhm.
because your kid is not going to go on a coaster. So I haven't been on them. It was so exciting. One of the best coasters I've ever been on. Um, and so of course we went on other rides, but those were kind of the two. Oh, and the Rise of the Resistance.
Mm.
Man, like the immersion is incredible in Rise of the Resistance. And it makes me want more of that. Like we spent
Yeah.
the first full day Saturday in Galaxy's Edge, and it felt like a full Star Wars day because we got reservations for Oga's Cantina, which is their little bar. You have to reserve it. You only have 45 minutes at the bar and two drinks, max two drinks. Um, and they're like fun little drinks. I had this fizzy thing that actually like numbed my mouth, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's just really fun, immersive environment. My daughter got to build a droid. We call it BB-14 because she was born on the 14th. So we got BB-14
Mhm.
droid in our house. It was a full immersion. And like, oh man, we just ended up like Hollywood Studios, favorite park.
Wow.
Hollywood Studios.
That's awesome. I don't know how many people would say that like a while ago, but now that they've built Galaxy's Edge,
Mhm.
uh, really built up that park, that yeah, that's definitely high on the list of places to check out.
Yeah. I used to work there. So it's nice um to see it on top and become a lot of people's favorite park. Well, definitely
Full
ours.
circle. Full circle, man.
Full circle moment. It's a beautiful thing. All right. Well, we got
Oh,
to get
that's
you on a trip because then you got to
I
talk about
know.
the trip. You got to talk about the
Yeah.
I see you got some vacation time coming up, so
Yeah, man. Also
not that
thinking
I'm
about
stalking your vacation time, but I am.
honeymoon options. You know, the vacation time I have now is to get married, but we want
Someone's
take a
gonna get
honeymoon. Thinking about
married.
Puerto Rico is up on the list of places to go for the honeymoon. So
Well, let me know if you do decide that, and we can do some recommendations.
please, yeah, I'll let you know.
Yeah. Well, appreciate you, appreciate our audience, and yeah, catch you next week, Nick.
Thanks, folks. Talk soon.